Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Monkavai here on behalf of MMOBomb.com, and welcome to our first impressions of ArcheAge. Now, ArcheAge is a brand new MMORPG that's being published by Tryon Worlds in the West. It was actually developed by XL Games, a Korean developer who is most famous as some of the developers behind the original Lineage. Now, it was published in Korea and then subsequently Japan in 2013 before making its way over to Russia, where it currently enjoys an open beta. Now, ArcheAge is in alpha development for the West, which means that everything, of course, you're going to see here is subject to change. That being said, Tryon Worlds is working closely with XL Games and has said that besides the localization efforts, which is a main part of why the game is currently in alpha, they're also making large development changes to better reflect a Western market. So that means that if there are some things, if you've been tracking ArcheAge's development and there are some things that annoy you about it being specifically based in Korea and, you know, that sort of grind mentality, keep in mind some of that probably has been changed to better reflect a Western audience and a Western MMORPG mentality when it comes to how those audiences enjoy their content. Alright, so that being said, why don't we go ahead and jump into the game, sort of show you guys what all ArcheAge has to offer. There's quite a lot to offer, starting with the character customization and creation screens. So as you can see, this is the current sort of land or continents of ArcheAge. There are three main ones, Nuya, Haranya, and Auroria. Now, Auroria is the sort of late game area where it's open PvP between the two factions. They can war, they can set up their own castles with guilds, challenge each other's guilds for siege warfare, and basically have a great time out in the middle of nowhere. Nuya and Haranya are the base level areas. This is where you'll progress through the game and is where the two main factions reside. So I, myself, as a level 16 cultist, reside here on Haranya, whereas Serapho over here resides in Nuya, and that is because out of the four main races in the game, two of each are faction with each side. So if we go to the character creation screen, we can see those four factions. There are more factions, or sorry, there are more races, rather, being developed. We don't know if those will be available in the beta of ArcheAge or if they're going to come later on in development, but for now we have these four. So the Nuian, the Elves, the Faran, and the Harani. The Nuian and the Elves are sided together, and then the Faran and the Harani are sided in the east. Now, each of these has two main passives that come equipped for each of the races. They're not really battle-specific passives. They're kind of quality-of-life passives. So, for example, the Faran, they can fall from greater heights and receive reduced damage from falling, and they're also able to climb trees and ladders 30% faster. In comparison, the Elves, for example, are really great at holding their breaths underwater, so they can stay underwater for 20 seconds longer, and they also swim 5% faster. So these sort of semi-small buffs don't really affect gameplay so much. They're kind of just as you go about in your day-to-day, you know, progressing through ArcheAge and exploring, they'll come into play and, you know, just be quality of life improvements here. This one, for example, Jungle Tamers, is kind of nice. It allows you to reduce the time required for logging trees and gathering herbs. That's pretty nice, seeing as gathering and basically farming in the game is a very key and integral part of how ArcheAge plays out. It is very important to how you gain a lot of the different unique things available to you in the game. Alright, so if I was to choose this race, for example, and we wanted to create our character, you have quite a number of options for choosing the style of your character. You have pre-made looks over here on the right that you can choose from if you so desire, but you can just as easily come over here on the left and choose your own specific style. So to start with, you can choose your hair. You can go for like a boy band's, you know, One Republic look here, and then change your hairstyle and hair color as well. And that goes for also your eyes, the style of your mouth, as well as I'm going to add myself a little pedo stash there. And you can even add eye makeup intensity if you want to go for that super goth look. So you have quite a lot of options when it comes to even the skin tone, how it actually appears on your face, you know, how old you are, etc. You get a lot of options for choosing how your character looks, which is really great because ArcheAge is all about character customization and making yourself look distinct from other people. It has a really, really in-depth costume setting, and just in general, lots of armor styles that you can equip, which means that not often will you look like a character next to you. You guys are going to have a lot of varying armor and be able to, even when you have that armor off, look completely different. So you can even select face mask. As you can see, I can be Darth Maul here from Star Wars if I feel like it. And if you want to go for more subtle thing, you can go small imperfections like scars and dimples, etc. I can actually move this scar around my face if I feel it goes in a better spot. And I often just like to put the dots right there on the noses. You can even make it like really, really big too, and the angles as well. So you get a lot of options here for creating a character. Perhaps not as many as some other character customizations. We have a Black Desert, for example, which is coming out in Korea this year, has a really, really in-depth character creation screen and system in place. But it's pretty close. You get everything with the sliders for everything from the nose to the mouth, everything in between, your height as well as your head dimensions can be changed. Really what you've come to expect from more the robust character customization options out there, say like Evil Lion. Those are similar to what you can expect in ArcheAge. So quite a lot here, and I like the way my character looks. Just going to keep it basic for now, like that dot on the nose. Too bad we can't like make it larger and make it seem like a mole. But the next thing you'll do is create or select your initial skill set. So this is a skill set, not a class. And the reason I say that is, and that's important, is because ArcheAge doesn't have any set classes. Sort of like Rift, ArcheAge allows you to choose up to 3 different skill sets and combine the abilities to create your own unique class. However, unlike Rift, there's no base class for me to start from. In ArcheAge, you start with one of the base skill sets, Battle Rage, Sorcery, Archery, Vitalicism, Occultism, and Shadowplay, excuse me. But from there, you're able to freely add in other skill sets and even remove the skill sets that you started with. So as you progress to the game, if you don't like Battle Rage, which is sort of the warrior skill set, you can choose to remove that and swap it out for a completely new skill set. What's nice though is if you choose to return to Battle Rage, you will retain all the individual progress you've made in that skill set. So as you use these skills, they'll gain levels, which will allow them to do additional damage, of course. And if you choose to switch over to a different skill set, when you return to the skill set, it'll still retain those levels, allowing you to freely experiment so long as you have the necessary currency to pay for the skill set swaps. Now, the first 3, Battle Rage, Sorcery, and Archery, they're sort of the standard 3 that you would expect. A ranged DPS, magical DPS, and then melee DPS. From there you have Vitalicism, which is the healing sort of class of the game, buffs, debuffs, what have you. Occultism, you start to get a little bit different. This is more of the dark magic. You have a lot of debuffs that you can place on enemies, a lot of slows, and you can do AoE stuns and sort of damage over time. And then Shadowplay is the rogue-like style of play where you can get in close, do a lot of teleportation moves, stealth, etc. And again, these are just the starting skill sets. There are additional skill sets which you'll unlock as you level up that aren't available as your primary skill sets. And some of those are dealing with, playing a lute for damage. There's a songcraft skill set that you can have access to. So there's a lot of different ways for you to customize your character. In fact, 120 different ways, they say, for you to choose your character skill set combination. And indeed, I've seen a lot of characters choose a lot of really crazy things and come up with some pretty awesome looking characters because of that. I should also mention at this point that you can wear whatever gear or whatever armor weapon combination you want. Again, it's not sort of restricted in any way, which means that if you choose to do so, you can wear, of course, cloth armor and a 2-handed sword, or plate armor and a staff. You can be a battle mage of sorts. Should really quickly show you some of the female variants. You can actually see some of the female variations of each of the races themselves. Kitty class, as you'd expect, is one of the most popular races. There are quite a lot of kitties out there. And I mean, come on. Otherwise, you just got these human guys. But a kitty? It's pretty awesome. Later on, they do plan on adding things like dwarfs, as well as another race, which I'm not too familiar with, for the planned expansions of the race classes. Alright, so let's go ahead and finally get into the gameplay here, about 10 minutes in. My apologies, there's quite a lot to go through in the character customization and creation screen. But we'll go ahead and jump in here. You'll notice that sometimes we'll find these cutscenes that are in Korean. Unfortunately, even the subtitles are in Korean. ArcheAge is in alpha. So that being said, we'll have to skip over those, and you won't really get a sense of the story so much. There is a pretty integral story. There's a reason why all four of the races are on the islands that they're on, and a reason why that island above is only for high level. There has been some quite catastrophic events that have taken place that has placed us where we are today. Alright, so after a particularly long loading screen, I've now made it into the game. I'm currently mounted up on my snow lion, which I can dismount at any time. Unlike a lot of MMOs, when you have a mount in ArcheAge, that mount persists even when you're not on it. And sometimes they're combat style mounts. They do have a couple of extra abilities, but not all of them. Some mounts have their own specific unique abilities that make them better at helping you carry packs between one area to another, which are basically resource goods for trading. Other mounts are great for combat, or just better suited for combat than actually being a mount. In this case here, my white main has a few attack abilities that I can get after he's leveled up. It's currently level 14, and it levels up by just being in combat if it's a combat pet, or by just riding it around. So once I ride it around a little bit longer, it'll gain level 15, and then I'll get overrun, which is a chance to stun enemies. So these are abilities that allow me to maybe get an advantage on someone before I drop off my mount and start engaging in actual combat. Now, I'm standing in front of this public farm, and one thing about ArcheAge is that it's very focused on farming. Farming is a huge part of the game. Everybody gets their own farm plot that you can set down anywhere there's a designated area, and that allows you to farm and raise livestock and feed them and harvest them, as well as other goods to make food out of, or armor, etc. So it's very, very integral to the game. In fact, ArcheAge as a whole is a very crafting-oriented MMORPG. As I bring up the crafting menu here, these are all the different crafting professions that you could engage in ArcheAge. So you got everything from alchemy to commerce here, gathering, leatherworking, carpentry. Husbandry is possibly one of the most interesting ones. This, of course, deals with raising livestock, and you can, in fact, create livestock supplements and make feed for the livestock, do all kinds of different things. But anybody can raise livestock, anybody can grow crops in the game. It's just how well do you do it, and what can you do with the goods that you produce from that. So if I look at this public ranch board, this tells me what I can grow at this ranch and how many. So I can grow ducklings, gooselings, turkey chicks, rice plants, and barley here. And this will allow me to grow up to 5 of any of those here for 24 hours before it becomes an item that anyone can come in here and steal. So all these here, it looks like they still got time on them before they come up for removal. This one it dies in 4 hours and 28 minutes. It's diseased and needs to get helped by whoever is taking care of it. Who is Fuyuan? Fuyuan, you're not doing a good job. Here's a diseased turkey. This diseased turkey I can actually do something with. I can spend 3 labor and 1 livestock supplement to treat the sick. I don't have livestock supplement, so I can't treat it. And that actually brings up the labor aspect of the game. So the labor aspect, this little bar here, is a secondary resource you gain every 5 minutes. And it's a resource that's consumed whenever you do anything crafting related. So that includes planting seeds, tending to the livestock, harvesting anything, crafting anything from gear to anything related to the housing system in the game, etc. That all uses labor, and once you've run out of labor, you're unable to do anything labor related. That being said, unless you're just doing crafting or any sort of labor related activity, it's pretty hard to run out of it. You gain it fairly quickly, and if you're doing a combination of leveling and crafting, or leveling and farming, etc., chances are you're not going to run out of it after the end of the day. So you're going to have it pretty regularly, and you get it even when you're offline, so you don't really have to worry about that. Alright, so I'm in this main little zone here, and in this zone I have a few quests to perform, and I'll go ahead and show off some of the combat in ArcheAge. I mentioned that there are separate skill sets that you can get to sort of make your own particular style of character here, and while I feel as though the combat isn't the best part of ArcheAge, I certainly think that it is above average in terms of what it gives you to work with. So you don't have the class system like I mentioned before. You have these skill sets that you can cross combine to create whatever works for you. You gain an available skill point every level to put into one of these 3 skill sets that you've chosen as you've leveled up. So I have occultism, vitalicism, and sorcery. I'm kind of going for a single target / AoE build with a little bit of vitalicism thrown in there to heal myself up and keep myself alive as I'm taking on multiple enemies. Each of these abilities usually comes unlocked after you reach a certain level with that particular skill set. So for example, vitalicism here is at level 15, I believe. So once it reaches, say, level 20, I would be able to put a point into skewer here in order to have a new ability. Some of them also require you to have a particular amount of skills invested before you can gain like their passives, as you can see here. But what's nice is that if I didn't want to, I could just go to numerous vendors that are available and swap out any of these skill sets, all of them if I wanted to, for 3 brand new skill sets or whatever skill sets I want to use, meaning that I'm not stuck with which ones I choose when I start the game. I can choose to swap those out with any of the available skill sets there and never have to worry about getting locked into something, so long as I have the gold to pay for the respecs, essentially. So here we can see I'm just taking on these little poachers here. I have to kill, how many of these poachers do I have to kill here? Kill Wallfang Poacher, collect poached goods, stop the poachers. Alright, so it looks like I've already done some of that here. Hunt Menhavdavi water buffalo and collect water buffalo sirloin. So I've got to hunt some buffalo. That looks like a awesome looking buffalo over there to kill. Looks like there's some other players to do, and as you can see, there's a lot of lush foliage. A lot of the zones have different climates to them as well. So you're going to see this one is much more of a jungle environment, whereas the zone previous to that was more arid that I was in. So here's a water buffalo. So as you can see, I'm using a cross combinational my skills here. A little bit of vitalicism to start with that actually heals me while also dealing damage to the enemy. I've kind of have it set up where for a single target individual, ooh, he knocked me down. For a single target individual, I use the little freezing arrow here to slow them at first. Then I cast an antithesis to deal damage because that's my second longest range skill. And then I blast them with Mana Stars before pushing them back with Mana Force. I also have an AoE stun called Hell Spear and an AoE electrical shock called Arc Lightning, which deals some damage over time in the case I get a lot of enemies at once. So I've got a nice combination of skills available to me based on the situation. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and mount up. I can't find the guy I need to kill, and these guys are killing off these water buffalo pretty easy. I'm just going to call them water buffalo. Mahadavi water buffalo. I always gotta have those complicated names. Unfortunately, it seems as though, for the most part, if you're having to kill a particular character or particular enemy, you don't get credit for killing it, and you don't get anything from it if you weren't the one to tag it. Occasionally, I have seen some discrepancies whereby I have gotten credit for something that I've killed as someone else starts, but I don't know if that was just maybe server lag of me hitting it first or what have you. But it does seem as though they are tagged permanently once you engage it. So you do need to maybe party up with other people before you do so in order for you to get the experience and the credit for it. That being said, you can combo up abilities with people, and I believe you get a little bit of experience for killing something even if it's not the main target. Alright. Could be wrong though. I need to check that a little bit further. Alright, so I need to kill a little bit of these, and as you can see here, the combat is really, it's nothing too terrible to write home about. Tab targeting does remove a lot of the action to it, and a lot of people, of course, are looking for action MMOs nowadays, but I do feel as though because of the fact that you can combine all these different classes together, these skill sets rather, you do get a lot more sort of mileage out of your character. You can really sort of combine these things to create something that you enjoy playing the most, even, oops, I timed that wrong, even if, for example, I don't actually have to aim each individual attack. Now, I'm going to bring up in my skill window here, actually I can't show you that, I do need to go to one of the vendors here because I was going to show you the other skill sets available. Also, if I wanted to, I don't actually have to finish an entire quest if I wanted to. If I say do half of it and say, you know, that's enough, I'm pretty much done with this. In other MMOs, you would have to abandon the quest, you know, go somewhere else. But in this game, you can turn it in with just a little bit of the quest finished and get partial credit. So you don't have to do the full quest. If you want to move on, you can do so. And from what I've seen, you're not penalized too much. Although I only get 390 experience, but I can complete it early, as you can see, before taking on the next quest. So if you get stumped on a quest, or if it's just boring, you can always move on, get partial credit, move on with the storyline, etc. Alrighty here. So I also have to come and what do I gotta do here? Defeat Poacher Ricea. So there's a poacher here that allows me to use a particular item for doing so. There he is. So he's already being bombarded here by lots of other people. So unfortunately, I have found that some quest objectives, some quest mobs do take a little bit of time to spawn here. What is this? A small turmeric. I will uproot this. I think this is someone's turmeric here that they left. I'm going to go ahead and uproot this turmeric here. Screw whoever that was. Oh no, I missed it. This guy actually respawned pretty quickly here. I wasn't expecting it. So there are combos with your abilities, and basically whenever you use an ability, it will specify a particular set of other abilities or states that will grant maybe additional damage to that person or that ability that you're casting, or an additional status effect based on that. So you can cross-combine multiple... Oh, come on. I want to attack you. There we go. Now I can finally attack the guy. So you can cross-combine multiple abilities together for like utmost damage based on what your skill set is. Alright, so I'm going to use some of my other skills to show you those. I've got a pretty awesome electrical blast that I can do. Does a little bit of damage over time. I'm going to heal myself while dealing damage to him. And just finish him off here with a nice blast there. Alright, so I've defeated the poacher. I don't even think I had to use that item. I don't even know what that item was, but we'll just jump back on my mount here. If your mount dies, you do actually have to take it to a zone like over there. And, ooh, my mount leveled up, so I get another ability here. Overrun, nice. So you do have to take it over here and nurse it back to health before it will regain its entire speed, as well as have its entire health bar restored. If you take a mount out, if it's not been restored to nurtured back to health, you can still ride it. It moves slower though, and if you take any additional damage, it will just fall over again and outright die once more. Alright, so we've completed that quest. One thing I will say is that there's always been a plethora of quests available for you to do in ArcheAge, even if you didn't want to do them all. And a lot of those you'll just discover as you move through the world. You'll just encounter a quest, and that will start a whole new chain of quests. Alright, so let's talk about a little bit about the crafting for a second here. As I mentioned, crafting is very important, and there's actually so many different crafting options for you. They each have their own crafting table and their own crafting properties that need to be paid attention to. So if we look here, this is the general merchant, but if I come over here, you notice there's these different stations that allow me to do different things like smelt or craft different weapons. You know, metalworking or weaponry is what you use for that. Whereas if I come over here to the loom, I'm able to do things like tailor basic fishing lines or different clothing or fabrics. Ooh, I can produce cotton material, so I can craft that there. It requires 8 cotton to do so. And the cotton material looks like it's used for things like red hat statues, pillows, monarch ceremonial chairs. And it's kind of nice that you actually get a full sort of breakdown of what you can craft based on what you're making. So what material you're making, and then shows you what you can craft from that. And as you craft, the more you craft, the more you actually gain these proficiency points. So these proficiency points allow you to craft better and better gear the higher you go, and it's required that after you reach certain proficiency levels, you're going to need to specialize in those particular styles of vocational skills. So I would have to say, for example, specialize in folio or specialize in husbandry or alchemy to further, leveling that up and further gaining access to more and more intense and higher tiered recipes. And what that means is everybody can do everything at first, but the more you level up, the more you get into it, the more you're going to find that you're going to have people specialized in particular styles of crafting, which makes it more intense, more focused. This is a vendor here for honor points. As I said before, this game is very PvP oriented. There is some PvE late game. There's raids and such that you can do in the open world as well as dungeons. But the majority of the game takes place in this Aurora Island area as well as the sea, and that's all PvP oriented. So in the Aurora area here, you can build castles with your guild, customize them with siege weaponry, and then protect it from other attacking guilds who will build their own siege weaponry to assault you and try to take that land from you. So there's this whole PvP sort of metagame that happens up there in that other area, as well as down here in these bottom 2 base continents as well. You'll notice that Rockborn base in here is currently at war, 1 minute left. And when it's at war, the different factions are warring against each other. Everybody is, you know, every man for himself. You can even kill your own faction mates if you wanted to. So there's a lot of different things for you to do PvP-wise before a late game as well. A lot of people have told me that the game opens up quite a lot after level 30, because that's when you're going to get out into the sea areas more. You're going to do more open world PvP, because you'll start seeing, you'll start encountering zones that are PvP enabled and that you'll have both factions in them. So if you're a PvP oriented individual who really likes crafting, then ArcheAge is perfect for you. It's exactly what you would want in an MMO. If you're more into the, you know, late game PvE, there is some of that. However, it doesn't seem to be the main focus as of yet. They may add more of that later on. Now there's a perfect example of something that isn't PvE related, and that's the gliding in the game. Hang gliders are actually very important. They allow you access to areas otherwise troublesome to reach, either because of the fact that it's inaccessible by land, or simply because of the fact that there's enemies blocking the way, and that goes for PvP as well. Oh, it looks like the war finally did end. But I'm going to go ahead and show you how these work. Now, these hang gliders, you can get these as quest rewards, or they're able to be crafted using a crafting type called machinery. If I go to machinery, I can show you. Under machining here, rather, gliders, there's a lot of different gliders for you to craft, and each of these gliders has their own properties. So for example, this ultimate glider, it has a high flight speed, high gliding ability, moderate turning, moderate initial speed, and no special abilities. Whereas Aziz glider here, which requires a proficiency of 100 in machining, has a special kill called Invincible Flight, and has very high stats across the board. Each of these, though, has their own special skill and their special sort of stats and what they're good at, which means that if you're going for a particular style of gameplay with your glider, because there is glider combat in the air, then you'll choose your glider to match that. Some of the gliders also have abilities. Let's go ahead and use my glider here. As you can see, I can just glide casually using my experimental glider. This is like the starting glider everybody gets. It doesn't really turn very quickly, it doesn't move very quickly, but you can go rather far. There's an example of, what's that thing called? I believe it's called there it is, an airship. I don't know why I can think of that. That's an example of an airship that will take players from 2 different locations. If they need to do like a trade route, it's much faster than simply walking on the ground, because you can only walk, you can't run or anything. Now I can cancel my glider anytime, and because I'm a cat-like reflex individual, I'm able to take minimal damage from that fall. But as you can see, you'll be able to glide from quite a long distance, and it is very important, especially when you're attacking castles and such, to be able to glide into the base for maybe some stealthy action. That being said, castles do have anti-air defenses, and players can shoot you from your gliders, so they can, you know, reduce you and make you fall to the ground and fight you that way. But it's ooh, it looks like we got a body here to inspect. But it is quite nice to be able to glide with all your, you know, have like Flight of the Birds and glide with all of your teammates and all your guildmates into an enemy base to take it from within. Alright, so we'll go ahead and I can dash over here by double hitting W. It does use a little bit of my mana to do so, but if I wanted to move faster and don't want to mount up, I can do that. Alright, accept that quest there. So we've got a new quest in this area. So the questing does lead you along. It is sort of like theme parky in terms of the questing. But in the actual crafting and the trading and all that, very, very open world, and opens up quite a lot at level 30 once you can sail the open seas and just fight people. There's a lot of systems in place for ArcheAge that sort of have like a consequential effect to them. And what I mean by that is, for example, if you steal goods from other players, oh, can I get this good? No, damn it. If you steal goods from other players, damn it, all of you picking these things up. I'll go here and get this. If you steal goods from other players, you will have these footprints marked on the ground, and these footprints will allow the player who you stole from to report you for doing a nefarious act. You get enough people reporting you, you'll get sent to prison the next time you die, and you'll either have to serve your prison sentence, have someone break you out, break yourself out, or even go to the jury and await trial. And the jury itself is a jury of your peers, a jury of other players. Those players are individuals who will listen to your plea, who will look at the crimes you've committed that people have reported, and they will decide your fate. That being said, I have found that players mainly just choose guilty all the time. They do actually show these. You'll see here trials going on right now, and they actually show what people are saying. You know, you can give your final argument, you can explain your case, etc. And then the NPC judge will judge you, and depending on your sentence, you'll either get a small time in prison or up to 99 minutes. I've seen a player get in prison as well. So there's nice little mechanics there. There's these cause and effect mechanics, and those go about for pretty much everything, it seems. There's cause and effect for doing a lot of the crafting, you know, actually taking things from one city to another. The farther you take goods and turning goods from one city to another using the trading system, the more you will get from that. And it's very important that the trading system is done because of the fact that you get these coins, which are necessary to do things like craft houses, or build ships, you know, get the designs for those, etc. Everything in this game requires cooperative help, cooperative measures by the guildmates, by your friends, and etc. for you to succeed in the game. It's not merely a single player experience so much. He's got an awesome little donkey here. I've got a brown donkey myself, and those donkeys are really important for trading packs in between areas, and those packs are resources that you could either bring to other areas and sell to players, or bring to areas necessary to do things like build ships and what have you, or just mainly to turn them to NPCs for extra gold and extra currency. Alright, so I'm picking up a loot here, and this brings up yet another item that every player gets. So every player has a ranged weapon, a musical instrument, and their main weapon. So the musical instrument, you don't fight with it per se, but it does act as sort of a way for you to heal yourself or to regain mana. I have access to this here just by clicking on play instrument, and by playing my instrument I will have a buff, as you can see here, regaining 12 health every second. And plus I look badass here playing this awesome instrument. Look at me just playing like a... I get all the ladies in the bars, you know. I just go to the bar and I just play this, like, hey, what's going on, ladies? Look at my awesome white mane snow lion. The stutter isn't going to actually get me the ladies, but if I have it right here and I'm just sitting there just rocking out, it's gonna be pretty awesome. All right. So like I said, the game opens up much more come level 30. Until then, you're still able to do lots of crafting. In fact, you can level just through nothing but crafting. And you really just get a lot of options for doing different varieties of activities as you progress through the game. And because of the fact that the crafting takes place in a lot of the lower level zones, doing some of the trading, etc., you're always going to have an influx of higher level players into lower level zones, helping out, you know, doing some of the trading routes, etc., which brings life to the game, which really does bring a lot of life. I'm going to jump on this carriage here. Oh, come on. Get on the carriage. These carriages don't move quite as quickly as your mounts, but there we go. Jump on that here. But they're actually pretty useful for when you're doing trading routes. So you do have a donkey. I have a donkey as well. Brown donkey. That donkey can carry one pack. However, before you get the donkey, or maybe if you don't want to navigate the donkey yourself, you can jump onto these carriage routes, which will take you between major city points. Allowing you to just AFK, if you will. My mount will also follow me for a certain amount of time, and I can just casually stand on the here as well. There he goes. He's slowly catching up to me. Slowly. This guy looks like he's trying to jump on at the same time. It can be a little difficult here, but this will allow you to go in between the cities and adds a little flair essentially. So once we get here, I can just jump off. And what's kind of interesting is that a lot of the things in the world are interactable for no reason. For example, you can't... Did I honestly get stuck between these two things? Holy crap, how did that happen? How do I get out of this? Can I, maybe if I, okay, I mounted up. Ooh. Mounted saved me. Alright, so what's pretty cool is that I can say, for example, click on this lamp light, light up this lamp light here, even ring this bell for no apparent reason other than to ring it. And it's just nice little flair, things like that. The lamp actually will add light to the area. As you'll notice, there is a day and night cycle. The lamp will add light to the area, and this adds a lot of atmospheric quality to the game. There are these small little spyglasses which will show you where the current routes are and how far away they are. So if you're wondering where the carts are, you can look at the spyglass and see just how far someone is. Looks like there's a cart coming and at the same time another cart going away. This one is from Villanelle, which is a small little region up to the north. Again, bringing it here. And each region has their own cart that takes it to the other neighboring areas, as you will. Man, even if you just stand here and watch these little carriages, they have such unique animations. He'll turn himself around. He'll actually do a 180 and move the opposite direction like that. It's not merely, you know, a simple animation. There's just a lot of life in this world. Look at that. He actually looks back a little bit, starts backing himself up, and just will, you know, gradually be on his way. Just things like that really add to the game. The atmosphere of this game is quite impressive, and there's a lot to offer a player who's really into, you know, the aesthetics and sort of the RP of an MMO. Besides, of course, the combat in the game itself. I'm just going to turn in these quests it looks like I have here. And just finish that quest. There we go. Alright. So it looks like I maybe have to go in here. Nope, don't have to go into the Queen's Palace. But we can come in here and just show off some of the larger architecture of the game before we end it. There are dungeons, or sorry, there are battlegrounds, a couple I believe. But in the alpha state right now, it appears as though only higher level players are in those. So if I was to enter any of those, even if I could, unfortunately, I would be faced with players much higher level than me. That being said, because of the fact that I can just wear whatever armor I want to wear and use whatever abilities I want to use, I get unique. I get a unique playstyle that other players may not have, and I can still be useful to my team, despite the fact that I'm a lower level player. The one thing that's interesting about ArcheAge is that level matters, but not in the same degree as other MMOs, and that's mainly because of the fact that the best gear in the game is obtained through crafting. So if you have a great crafting set, this is an example of some of the siege weaponry you can get in when you attack those castles. You actually roll those up to the gate and then get up in them. And so some of the best crafting gear is better than any of the gear that you find out in the world. So if you can craft yourself a nice set early on, you stand a chance against someone who's 4 or 5 levels ahead of you. Not to mention, if you have 3 or 4 of you at a lower level, your chances are you can take down someone who's, say, level 50 if you're 4 people at level 30. So it's not as much of a discrepancy in power gain between higher level and lower levels as other MMORPGs. Otherwise, guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and conclude this first look for now. I've got my own personal little farm up here that I need to go attend to, a little scarecrow village here. Those villages, those little gardens, there's only certain finite areas that you can place those plots of land. And so because of that, you get a small plot that you have to pay gold or taxes on, and nobody can mess with that. Nobody can actually go steal from that, as opposed to someone who goes and places trees or shrubbery or what have you randomly out anywhere in the world, which they can do. I can just come here right now if I wanted to and plant a, let's see here, seeing if I have anything I can plant. Let's see, plant. I don't know if I have any seeds or anything I can plant, but I would be able to plant it anywhere I wanted to and take care of it out here in the world without fail. Unless, that is, someone comes along in the meantime and scoops it up. But otherwise, that's going to be my first impressions here. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hopefully I have explained a good deal available to you in ArcheAge. And if you guys want to learn more about the game, be sure to check out any other of our live stream events that we're going to be having for ArcheAge. I'll try to do more coverage of it at a higher level. But this is essentially what you can expect in the first, say, 15, 16 levels of the game. There will be some early crafting, some early trading, just kind of introducing you to the system, and there's definitely a lot available to you as you continuously level up in the game. This is an area that's a public farm, or it's not public, a private farm area. Each of these scarecrows represents an individual person's plot, and you can basically put whatever you want on it. Some people put some trees, other people have some livestock. Looks like someone is raising a mount as well as some sheeps and a tiny little goat kid. I'm disappointed you're not actually a kid, you're just a goat. Someone just has a large, plethora of different items and stuff growing right here. And anybody can come, or they can come at any time rather, and tend to these things and not have to worry about someone coming in. I guess Charmander owns this. Where does Squirtle own his other stuff? I don't know. Charmander's right there. I mean, you can even have you can even have dairy cows. I've seen a farm just nothing but cows. So again, this is the safe way of farming, but if you want to farm large scale, you can go find anywhere out in the world, even up in the mountains, and farm up there. But yeah, like I said, until next time, I'm just gonna go ahead here and play my freaking awesome instrument. What is this instrument again? I forget what this actually is. It is my poacher's lute. I'm gonna play my poacher's lute. I'm gonna play it out. And until next time, guys, I'll see you later. Spunkify out. Later, guys.